This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So, being a realtor is the easiest thing in the world.
That's right.
All you have to do is you just show up, show some houses, and get a commission check in the mail or, direct deposit into your account. Isn't that truth, Misha?
Maybe in some different world.
In a different world? Yep. So on the show today, we have Misha Kletskoy. Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
So I've known Misha for a couple of years now, actually. And the reason why you're on the show is because you are relatively new in the industry, but you've attained a fair degree of success early on. And so I think it's important for people to hear, hey, what's it really like when you get into the industry?
Misha, how old are you?
I'm 22 years old now.
Okay, 22 years old, 4 years out of high school. And you're already done with real estate? You've accomplished everything you've wanted to do?
I wish I would have started that young. Valerie started that young.
Really?
I wish I would have started that young, yeah.
Not even close. I'm just getting started. There's so much more. Every day you learn something new.
But what's cool about Misha and his high school, his education was you actually speak Russian. Mm-hmm. So you were born in San Francisco, but your heritage is Russian. Mm-hmm. And he went to a Russian school, and so he learned English in a Russian school. But so Russian's your primary language. I'm
curious, because usually on this show, Johnny, you bring in veterans that have been in the business for a while, that have some experience, usually decades.
Long in the tooth.
Today, you bring in a 22-year-old kid. I'm curious what it is you see in Misha. What is it unique about him that you thought, hey, he'd be great to have on the show?
So that's a good question. So, and I don't even think Misha knows. But the reason why
trying to sell him something. Right?
Yeah, you want to buy a house. The reason why I asked Misha to be on the show was because I really respect his integrity, his work ethic, and what he was able to accomplish in a relatively short period of time.
I appreciate that.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, because when I met Misha, he was just joining our real estate team. You were new in real estate. I don't even think you were 21 yet. So like when we were doing events and stuff, it's 21 or older in some of these events. Misha was having to sneak in.
Yep.
So
why did you decide at a young age, hey, I want to be a realtor? Like, why didn't you want to be a professional athlete or go into the military or become a doctor, a lawyer?
I was never wanting to do like a 9-to-5 job, like sit alone in a seat all day long. I wanted to have almost every day be a little bit different. I was always into sales, and one of my buddies out of high school got his license. He was like, hey, get your license. I did it, and then that's the rest.
So a friend got you into it.
Yeah.
And is this during COVID?
This was during COVID.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, great time. Hey, man, COVID was good for real estate agents, at least in California.
But I got in at the end of COVID when everything switched. So when I got in, it was like an amazing opportunity to learn because it was much harder.
It was harder.
The beginning of COVID, for example.
Yeah, Misha heard all the stories about how easy it was, and then he gets in and he's like, what in the world?
Everything changed. As soon as I got my license and signed up, everything changed.
So does it live up to what you thought it would be? Has it met your expectations being a realtor?
There's definitely expectations that met up, but there's also expectations that I didn't have. There's a lot more work that goes into it than just, show a house and that's it.
Yeah.
There's negotiations, there's inspections, there's
people,
there's people, there's feelings. That's probably the main thing in residential real estate is like dealing with feelings.
That's a good point because I think the buddy that got you into real estate, he does more commercial, right?
He switched to commercial now, yeah. So he's doing a lot of that, which is just numbers. If it makes sense, great, done deal. If it doesn't, then it's not a done deal.
Yeah.
In residential, it's all about feelings. You got to connect with the people. You got to know what they want. You got to really dig deep into them and get to know them.
Yep, absolutely. And so if you were, looking back, if you were talking to a younger version of yourself or talking to somebody who's looking to get into real estate, and I think there's an extra layer of challenge for somebody your age, because I think Valerie was 21 when she got licensed. There's an extra degree of complexity because you're so young.
Definitely.
And most people that own homes are going to be older than you. Mm-hmm. And so you have to overcome that trust barrier, that objection. So speaking to younger professionals, what's something that you've learned that you would say, hey, I wish I would have done this sooner?
Just don't think about it. Just do it. The worst that can happen is they say no or they reject you, and then you can just ask, hey, what did I do wrong? Get feedback, educate yourself. The more you go to different trainings, the more you know about the market, market updates, what are sellers doing, what are buyers doing. And then when you talk to clients, people about it, they can see that, and over time they become to trust you more and more. Like, of course, they see me 21 years old, 22 years old. They're like, oh, what is he doing? Straight out of high school, he doesn't know anything.
Yeah. How can he help me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you start talking to them. You're like, hey, I'm mentoring with these people. I learned from these people. I'm helping here. I'm learning here. You give them some inside hacks on how to do some things, And
something I remember us doing when you were on the team was you'd come to me with a scenario and you're like, what should I say? Mm-hmm. And eventually it was like we'd have this huge long pre-planning session and then they wouldn't answer. And so it's like, just freaking call them and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, my main thing was
just do it like you said.
Just getting over what's going on in my head, basically, not overthinking it, just doing it. And the worst that can happen is really no. And most of the time it wasn't a no. It was a conversation that started. And sometimes even a deal came out of it. Yep.
And so when you started with the team, you weren't even 21, but then your birthday's in January. Mm-hmm. So in January of 2023, you had 0 escrows. And then, so the main focus of our team, the Made for More team, is we understand and believe most agents should probably start on a team. It's like a brokerage, like a apprenticeship type of a situation. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that that's where you start, that's not where you're going to end, we don't want to shackle you to a desk and keep you on the team and do that. And so our goal is to help launch agents' careers from being on the team to being solo agents.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened.
And that's what happened with you. And so you were on the team in January, and then October, November, I think, is when you launched into your solo career, right? And so during that period of time, there was a lot of growth, but it wasn't linear. It was exponential. And so when you exited, about how many escrows would you say you had going at that time when you made the decision to depart?
That month was really good. I had like 4 or 5 escrows in that 1 month.
Yeah.
But the past few months before that, they were kind of dry. It all happened at once, which is real estate. That's the other part in real estate. No one tells you that. You're not going to get paid every month. You're going to get paid here. You might get paid here.
Especially starting out.
Yeah, especially as a new agent. It's not guaranteed.
So what we tell people is have a minimum of 90 days of savings, suggested 6 months. Because I've known people, you've known people, Misha, who get into real estate, they go all in, burn the boats, leap, and the net will appear. And then they start living off credit cards.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they dig themselves into a hole, and now they have to go back to their job to pay off the credit card to then hopefully get back into real estate at a later date.
Exactly.
So, but you're right. People do not plan for the inconsistency of the paychecks.
But I've also heard you say that you shouldn't have a plan B, that when it comes to being successful at real estate, you got to be all in, you got to be desperate and hungry.
Yep. Would you agree with that,
So maybe it's
Misha?
better if you don't have a 90-day reserve.
No.
You can never go back to anything.
So that's what I would think.
Have a can of beans and rice, and that's it.
But oftentimes the people who are saying they're going all in are not. It's one thing to say it. It's a whole nother thing to do it. Are you showing up to the office 5 days a week making calls? Are you doing open houses every single weekend or multiple times during the week?
Because you don't have a regular day job.
Because you don't have a regular day job.
You don't have that safety net.
But if you go all in and then you just make 50 calls a week and you do an open house every other weekend, that's not going all in. That's being lazy. Like you're just too lazy or too scared to actually put yourself out there. And there's nobody holding you accountable because as an independent contractor, I can't tell you to make calls. I can't tell you to go out and do this, do these activities. And so that's where I see people struggle.
Did you see that in Misha here? Did you see that desperation, that hunger right off the bat?
I saw the desire.
You said you admired his hard work.
He showed up to the office every single, like there would be like me and then the assistant and then Misha.
Because you were homeless, right, at the time?
Right.
Yeah. But here's the other thing too about Misha, and I think why he succeeds where other people may struggle is one of our core values at Made for More is give over get. Like we believe contribution is key. Like you have to help people. And what I really respected about Misha was when we would do events and stuff, he would show up and he would help out. He would stay late and he would help clean up. He didn't have to do that stuff. And even now that he's not on the team, we still do events at PCAR and I still see him helping pick up and put out pens.
There you go.
And so
he was brought up right.
There you go, brought up right.
Yeah, but you can't ever expect anything in return.
Yeah.
That's one thing I learned.
In real estate, 100%. And in life.
In life in general.
Yeah.
That's tough for people because everybody wants something out of what they're given.
It'll
right?
come back. You just can't ask for it.
So is real estate harder or easier than you expected?
It's both. It's different. It's definitely harder in ways that you have to, for example, like at work, you have a boss that tells you what to do every day. You come at 9, you could leave at 5 or whatever your schedule is. You get your work done and you go home and don't care about what's going on.
And you're done.
And you're done.
Yeah.
With real estate, it's 24/7. You know, someone can call you at 8 p.m. with a question, a problem. And, you know, I make myself available. Some people don't. Some people do, you know.
Yeah.
I find that because I do that, people become to trust me a lot, and they're like, "Oh wow, this guy's really on my side. Like he's fighting for me," you know.
Yeah.
And the consistency part, like when I was on the team, I would for sure make my dials. I would, you know, be on the team meeting. When I left the team, there would be times where I'd slip up. You know, for example, not make all my dials, not, you know, go through my FUB list or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see people slipping through the cracks. Like one day ago, a client called me and he was like, "Hey, have you forgotten about me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just giving you some time. You know, like you told me you need some time, so I'm giving you time." And he called me, but he remembered me because I kept in touch so much.
That's
I've been
funny.
praying
He
for
called you out.
every night that you will call me back. But I think you hit on to something. I think one of the keys ingredients to being successful in real estate is being self-motivated. You think that that's like something natural that everybody has, some self-motivation.
Yeah.
I think actually it's very rare. I think it's a small percentage of the population that's actually self-motivated, that can work on their own. I mean, I would say I'm rare. I would say most of my coworkers are not self-motivated. I would say most of the working population needs a boss to give them instructions, to give them daily tasks, weekly tasks to do. They need some kind of set program, schedule, right? They need a fixed schedule. Okay, I know I come in at 9, I'm supposed to do this. I know we have a weekly meeting on Wednesdays. I think a great deal of the population needs that. And that's why I think you see so many realtors fail, is because they are not naturally self-motivated. And real estate does not have a program set up. Maybe they do, but I know most of them don't, where it's like, okay, here's your schedule. You come in, these are the calls you make, and this is what you're supposed to do, and then we're going to have this on Friday. And
So what happens? It's almost it's a muscle, that self-determination. I think there's everybody has a certain amount of it innately, but in order to succeed independently, you have to grow that muscle.
Yeah.
And so if you're transitioning from a job or from, in Misha's case, high school, into someplace, into a work, let's say, just say real estate, where self-determination and self-motivation is paramount, he's going to have to learn how to develop that muscle quickly.
Yeah.
And so, or if you are 40 years old and now you're transitioning into real estate and you're used to a boss telling you when you can show up, when you're done, when you can go on vacation, when you have to be back, you're going to have to build that self-determination muscle.
Yeah.
And so that's where the team comes into play. And that's why we help them get their bench press from 95 up to 315, so that way they can launch into being a successful solo agent. We'll get more into that. We'll talk about how we launch agents right after this.
Mike, don't you just love people who go over the top and make sure you're taken care of and feel great afterwards? Well, listen to this. Ben, he wanted to buy a new home, but he needed to sell his current home first. So he reached out to Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team with Made for More Realty, and they made sure that he was taken care of. They talked to the builder to hold his new home until his current home was sold. And because of Johnny Jennings' reputation, the builder said, absolutely no problem. We're going to do that for you. Johnny sold Ben's home quickly and negotiated a rent back for Ben, giving him plenty of time to seamlessly move into his new home.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team at Made for More Realty. They have a full staff dedicated to making your home selling process the easiest and most efficient it can be. That's why they've been voted the #1 team in Roseville for the last 3 years. Plus, they sell your home on average 27% faster and for a 3% higher price. Expect more, get more with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team at Made for More Realty, brokered by eXp Realty. Just Google Made for More Realty today to get more for your home. License number 581837.